Mr. Bob Pryor serves as the Chief Executive Officer of NTT Data. Thank you for your perspective. I'm going to ask you a couple of rapid-fire questions. What words come to mind when you think of the word extrovert?
Exuberant, lively, energetic, vocal,
An introvert?
thoughtful, pensive, listening, learning.
And you yourself, are you an introvert, extrovert, or perhaps ambivert?
I don't know what an ambivert is. I'm probably an introvert with extroverted compensating mechanisms. So operate as an extrovert, but actually an introvert.
So that an ambivert is someone that can go either way depending
Oh, okay.
on the
All right.
situation.
Yeah, I would say adaptive. I'm very adaptive to the situation that I find myself in.
And has this changed since your childhood?
I think I was probably always an introvert. My dad was military, so we moved every year, and so I think I really had to step out of my comfort zone to behave more as an extrovert in terms of meeting, encountering new situation, meeting new people, trying to meet new friends, and then a year later doing it all over again. So I think that was probably part of just adapting to different cities and countries that we lived in.
What does diversity of thought mean to you? And do we need diverse thinking for diversity of thought?
For us, one of our priorities is diversity and inclusion, which is beyond gender. It's age, it's where you come from, how you think differently. It could be different face, people with no face. It could be lots of different disparate thoughts, certainly. And again, we're all people, we're all human, we're all unique, and so we all bring something different to the discussion and to kind of teamwork. And that's a big part of who we are as a company and our value system.
Thank you. We have all heard the phrase, birds of a feather flock together. In your experience, do you feel people tend to flock with their own kind? What's the advantage or disadvantage for that?
I think there's a natural tendency to gravitate to, and I don't know if it's people like you or just the crowd that you think you associate with. And so we go to great lengths, like if we're hosting a big event, we go to great lengths to make sure that if it's you're sitting at a table, you're with people you don't normally work with or don't normally see. If we have groups like a cocktail hour, people know that as I make the rounds, they need to be not in a group of people that they always talk to. They need to be spreading out and meeting other people. And certainly as senior leaders, we need to be hosting and facilitating those discussions. So we really try and go to great lengths to make sure that we're not just too comfortable with the people that we associate with. And I would say a lot of our hiring, especially for senior roles, we won't start interviewing until we know we have a slate of very diverse candidates of gender, of underrepresented minorities. And so, because it's hard to find them, and if you start interviewing, you're never going to find them. And so one of the things we put as a pressure point on our recruiters, either internal or external, is we won't start an interview process until we know we have a slate of at least half of them being diverse candidates. And then that really forces a lot of pressure on all of us to make sure that we're constantly looking for candidates that represent diversity. But it's hard. And again, it's natural to want to gravitate to people like you. I would say for me, the last thing I want to do is surround myself with people just like me. I'm an ADD kid, and so I'm going to surround myself with people with lots of organization structure. That's one of my weaknesses. And I think having people that can challenge and that can bring different points of view, that can be provocative, I think that's part of creating a great team and a high-performance team.
Thank you. At NTT Data, how do you create a culture, and what tools does NTT use as leaders to make sure that all personality types are included in the conversation?
Yeah, and I would say, it's probably more geared to making sure that we're representing diversity. But one of the things that we've started doing, especially since we've all been spending a year and a half on video, be it Zoom or Teams or WebEx or whatever, facilitating the sessions to where we know that we're trying to get a point of view from everyone on the call. So if we have a breakout session, not letting any one person dominate and making sure that we're kind of paying attention to who hasn't spoken yet, who hasn't said something. 'Cause a lot of time, extroverts will tend to be the first one that says something and the last one to say something. And so you really have to probe and push to get the introvert to speak up. It's not that they don't have a point of view, it's just, it's not a natural tendency for them to necessarily want to speak up. But generally for me, smartest person in the room is generally the person that's saying the least. So I'm kind of on active probing of, well, what do you think? And why do you think that? And again, I think you just have to be alert and paying attention to the room and the audience and making sure that people are sharing their views. And some may not be comfortable speaking up. So you want to give them a forum for send me an email afterwards or call me later or send me a text. But you want to give them different means that they can still communicate and express themselves, even if it's not a comfortable situation doing it in a large group.
Okay, thank you. Having to move around a lot with your father in the military and as an introvert growing up, do you think being forced out of your comfort zone shaped who you are today, and how do you think that would have changed if you weren't?
Oh, it unquestionably shaped who I am. And I think it really, forced me to be very adaptive. And so regardless of introvert, extrovert, it required an adaptive persona to fit different situations, different groups. What may have been cool in one setting was very nerdy in another setting, or very awkward, if you will. And so quickly being able to kind of read a room and adapt. And I was, I studied accounting and finance in college and in my graduate school. And yet one of my most enjoyable jobs in my career was sales. And I never saw myself as a salesperson, but I had someone that kind of pulled me into a sales role. I worked with him for many, many years in that, and taught me the art of selling, which I loved. And again, a lot of that is being able to listen, being able to advocate, have empathy for your client or prospective client. And so I think those skills that I developed as a kid have very much shaped who I am today, and certainly my leadership style.
Thank you. Has there ever been a quote or a motto that you've lived by that's kind of shaped your life?
I grew up with a mindset of treating people the way you would want to be treated, and I've adapted it over time to be treating people the way they want to be treated, because they're not all like me. In fact, part of adapting is understanding and creating an environment where people can feel comfortable, which means you got to create comfort on their terms, not your terms.
Thank you.
Yeah.